Hey guys, so today for our entertainment, this is what we're making. It's a jewellery tree. You could put necklaces on here, your bracelets. It's got little pots where you could put your earrings, your rings, maybe even little hair thingies. So I did this version and I did this version using my favourite oval trinket tray. Let's get into the resin area and get busy. So here we are once again, measuring out our resin for today's project. I made this reindeer jewellery holder because I have quite a lot of jewellery, and I thought, yeah, I like the look of that. And when I was making it, I thought, oh, why don't I video the making of it? Maybe somebody will find it useful, and it's a nice piece as well. And you can be creative with it. You can do all one colour, or you can do the base a different colour and the antlers a different colour. You could have fun. I chose blue for the base and gold, a nice gold for the antlers, so there was a nice contrast. I really love this gold colour. I use it a lot. It's really gold. So this project does take quite a bit of resin, 12 ounces. You know, you're going to use every drop of it, pretty much. When you make this, you know I'm always going on about the bubbles. This is where the bubbles get trapped. And just make sure when you pour your resin in, don't go and pour the whole lot in. Pour a little bit in first, because you're going to spend quite a bit of time debubbling, and because you can't get a silicone tool or anything down in those edges, you've got to sort of do it manually by squeezing and pressing and heat gun. So the more of that you do, the better the result will be. The less bubbles, maybe even no bubbles. So pay attention to that. Yeah, these are the places where the bubbles collect because you can't get down there. So this was my method, just squeezing it and trying to sort of really squeeze the cups together, trying to expel hopefully as much air as you can and get the resin to drop down in there. And some heat gun, a bit of tapping and a bit of poking around, and all this just helps. Okay, and I have to put it up on my level surface, which was tricky, and I topped it up on there. Now to this part, the reindeer head. I wasn't quite sure what this was to begin with when I opened up the package. It was literally just 5 pieces of wood, the long piece and 4 little pieces. What I did was I just put some UV resin on the ends there to make it stay together. And this is basically a device that they've put in. It's very flimsy. It's made of balsa wood to support the antlers. So that's the basic theory. Now I'll show you a little trick here, because this can be quite tricky. His nose is quite narrow and he has a line across his lip separating his bottom lip from his nose. Another good place for bubbles. So pour in a little bit of whatever you're using for your antler top. Give it a good squidge, because you won't be able to get down in there. And this really works. Poor old Rudolph. So after you've done that for a bit, try to lay the antlers as far back on the table as it would go, so that the front of the table sort of touches the top of the head and keeps it flat. And commence with the pouring of your resin. Start at the top. You'll see why in a minute. This is because you have, by the time you get down to the neck area, the resin makes that whole thing come backwards. So when you start pouring, as I say, start near the top of the antlers and gradually fill up. And this is a nice mould. It makes a very nice shape. It's just that it kind of falls short on design. Then when you start putting it in the neck, it slightly moves and you think, uh-oh, design flaw. So this is what I did. These are just, you know, the thin stirrers that come sometimes with the cups that you buy. And I just built myself a little stack of these to help with the weight of the resin that is now in the neck area. And once you start pouring in more, of course, it's going to get heavier. So this was the best thing. I searched for a lot of things, and I found these were the best because you can stack them up individually. And try and get it as flat as you can, flat and straight as you can. Yeah, like that, and it just stops that whole thing from tipping down. So that's how I solved the problem of, you know, the mold being very flexible. And then just continue with your resin, just continue filling it up, pouring slowly. And that should help to keep your mold level. So do your usual heat gun, which will help to get rid of some of those bubbles, help bring them up to the surface. It also helps to sharpen up the edges by blowing the silicone back into the mold. And I also made a white version. I made a tray, I didn't film it, that was gold, black and white, and I put this on there just for a sort of different version of it. So it's quite a versatile mould. You could do lots of things with it. Plus it would be nice just to make the head maybe just as a sort of Christmas decoration. Again, I did the same thing with the lolly sticks just to keep that neck end up. And a little bit of silicone tool to get in all those bubble hiding spaces. Yeah, I was serious about getting the bubbles out of this one. I really went to town. As I say, it's quite a lot of resin, and just for the sake of putting in a little bit more effort, just trying to get those bubbles out, you don't want to spoil the project. Use your heat gun. I usually do leave my projects for 24 hours, but in places, the head part and the neck part, where the resin's quite thick, that's always a good idea. And now the moment of truth to see whether all that attention to the bubbles really pays off. And I think you'll agree that yes, it does. This weighs quite a bit. It's quite weighty. But it was a perfect result. I didn't get any bumps or any bubbles or missing parts. Worked really well. I was pleased. And I love that blue. Such a nice colour. When you unmold the deer head, take extra care around the antlers, because sometimes the resin in molds like this, everything is still a little bit flexible. If you've done your ratios right, it will eventually harden up, so don't panic. This one was a little bit flexible. But again, all that attention paid to his nose, his poor old nose, to try and get the bubbles out. Perfect, was well worth the effort. And I think I only got one bubble there, maybe a few smaller ones. Now, when you put the deer head on, it's unstable. And the reason for that is, it's not the antler section, it's the bowl section. That bit in the middle where you mount the head, it's slightly curved. So all I did was took a little bit of sandpaper and just sanded it off until the antler head stopped rocking, and then it was fine. So you probably will have to do that as well, but it's not the antlers, it's the bowl where you put the antlers. And here's the version with the white antlers and the gold, black and white tray. This one I made for myself. I made this one first actually, so that was how I knew about the neck problem. And I love the chameleon colours, I really do. And those little bowls, very useful. So there we are. That was our Rudolph resin adventure. And again, just like to say thanks very much to you all for watching my little efforts and subscribing and liking and commenting. I like to read the comments, some of them make me laugh. And if you've got any questions you want to ask, if I can answer them, I will. Thanks for being here, thanks for watching, and until next time, see you then.